to QI, where tonight we'll be looking at the 3 L's. That's location, location, and location. And on the road to L are the fiendish Aisling B, the diabolical Jason Manford, the Mephistophelian Johnny Vegas, and that infernal Alan Davis. You all have satanic horns. Aisling goes.
Oh.
Jason goes.
Classic.
Johnny goes. And Alan has a tail.
Are we nearly there yet?
Now, for your convenience, we have a lavatory on site. This being the L series, there is a very good chance that there will be one question to which the answer will be lavatorial. You're right, darling.
Sorry, that's harder than I thought it was.
You hit yourself with a penny. Yes. And if that is the case, you can play your spend a penny card, and if you are right, you will get extra points. Such is the nature of that particular joker. Now, here's a question about a very special location. What would you find at the exact centre of the observable universe?
Oh, you?
Well, oddly enough. Possibly. Norfolk, yes.
There isn't a centre of the universe, really. So isn't the centre of the universe just the person who's looking out? Because it must be the same...
You are so absolutely right, it hurts.
In any direction.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely right.
I know a thing, because our esteemed creator, John Lloyd,
Yes.
in his rather good Edinburgh Festival show,
Yeah.
told us that of all the billions of galaxies that there are only a certain number observable from Earth. Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? Do you know? 4. 4.
With the naked eye.
What observable from Earth? For
Other galaxies.
for the
than our own.
galaxies.
And, well...
But I remember at school them doing something with a balloon. The
Yes.
teacher, and he put loads of dots on a balloon, and then he sort of said it was like the closest to explaining the universe as he could do.
That's absolutely right. Although there has been an absolute statement of where the centre of the universe is, which is that it's at the meeting of Bank Street and 6th Street in the town of Wallace, Idaho. There it is. Centre of the universe.
Is that
It's
the mayor
official.
of Idaho, though? Has he said that?
Yeah.
Well, it
They're
covers
doing
Idaho.
well for tourism and gone, why don't we just say the centre of the universe is here?
You're absolutely right.
Just made it
He
up.
said it because there was no particular scientific evidence to say that it wasn't the centre
Oh, I
of the
see. So
universe.
he does.
They decided
But
in
don't
that...
say that
We'll have it.
everywhere, then.
Yeah, but it's Americans like to stake a claim. They're land grabbers. It's in their in their DNA, so to be.
Yeah.
Not that we weren't in our colonial era, of course.
Isn't the sun the centre of the universe?
Well, sorry, I didn't want to laugh at that.
What a way to build me confidence for the rest of the show.
That was the most... I thought that was a serious question as well. We both looked to you, and you looked at us like the peasants on the land. Going, will we ever be free of this tyranny? Never.
I'd like to go in the toilet, but doesn't the Wiki Hole Witch live there?
Well, I'm sorry that it sounded quite so patronising. The centre of the universe is apparently Bank Street and 6th Street in Wallace, Idaho, or...
The sun.
Yes? You unutterable beasts. The exact centre of the observable universe, you'll find the unbearable likeness of Johnny Vegas, or whoever happens to be observing it. We all know what the Big Bang theory is, but what's the Big Splat theory?
Does the Big Bang come out of the Big Splat? The big
No,
splat,
no,
not the Big Bang.
it doesn't.
Is it the last thing you hear before an anvil hits your head?
Ooh, horrible, yes. God.
Is there something to do with, I don't know, well, the Earth? Is the Earth and the Moon and all the other planets one thing, and then they...
Fire today, Jason Manford.
Am I? Thank you, Mr. Stiliano. Physics teacher.
It is a theory. It's the sort of predominant theory, because nobody knows where the moon came from. There was a theory that there was a planet called Thea. In Greek mythology, Thea was the mother of Selene, who's the goddess of the moon, and that there was a collision with the Earth, maybe...
That's it, I remember that.
There it is.
Looks like a sun hat, like the world is having going on a nice...
Has the world gone to the races?
The idea is that Thea banged into the Earth or banged a piece of matter into the Earth. If that were true, then the moon should contain bits of alien rock as well as Earth rock. As it is, it only contains bits of rock that are similar to those on Earth, almost identical.
Didn't something land and kill all the dinosaurs?
There were several extinction events, one of which was supposedly a big meteor. The other one was a huge volcano, which caused a huge greenhouse effect.
I remember years ago, you know when Mount St Helens went off in the States? That was at an age where I obviously thought it was in my hometown. I thought my parents were being incredibly casual about the impending doom, and I get back in the bag and saying we should really go to Blackpool. Or at least to a safe zone.
I thought St Helens was only a rugby league team. I didn't know it was a town as well.
Yeah, it's huge. We're big enough to be a city.
Oh, how rude
if
of
we
you.
could build a cathedral, but that would attract outsiders, and they would only question our faith.
Do you know what?
And who wants that, Stephen?
I think we might be coming to your ways later.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So be on the qui vive, as they say in France. Yeah. The fact is, the big splat is one of the theories about the creation of the moon. There are a few others. I'll go through them if you like. One was Charles Darwin's son George, who said that a huge lump of material was flung off the Earth by the extreme speed of its rotation at the beginning of its existence.
Nonsense.
And this, the hole it left is the Pacific Ocean. That's what his theory was.
No, he's guessing there.
Well, yeah.
He's got a clever dad, and thought people will believe me.
And there's a final theory, which we rather like, which is that Venus had the moon and we appropriated it as it passed by at one point. It's particularly good because it was... The people who devised this theory don't really believe it. They just want to keep the argument alive and come up with fresh ideas, which is rather pleasing.
They just invented a theory to keep the argument alive.
Basically, yeah.
I had an ex-girlfriend like that.
Very good, I can imagine it. Yes, nobody knows where the moon came from. Now, if Johnny and Jason got naked, covered their legs... It's pretty good, isn't it? I know.
I mean, I can't.
I can't wait after the show to open wedding gifts together.
He's still the beating hearts of the nation. If they got naked, covered their legs in lard, and put their hands on each other's shoulders, what could we expect to happen next?
I would guess Ofcom would get involved.
Something com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd obviously be the female
bit?
in the relationship. I'm the one who needs
The bottom.
rescuing.
Yeah.
Why are their legs in lard? Are they going to slither about?
Legs are important in this particular pursuit. You were talking about we don't want people to come to St Helens because they might not approve of our ways.
It's a red wine that we are about to trample the grapes for that you can also fry with. It's the first kind of...
Lancashire wine.
Yeah, it's the first kind of sipping
Frying
lard.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can have the glass and do your chips in it also.
Available in every Yates's wine lodge.
Yeah.
There'd be a rush like at Christmas when Jamie Oliver said to use goose fat, except this time they'd be using comedians kind of dripping. They go, you know what, these potatoes taste a bit funny.
Sure, try Johnny dripping. No, we're in North, and forgive me for my accent. I do my best. We're in North, and yeah, all right. It's a pursuit. It's a pursuit in the northwest.
It's not shin kicking.
Yes, it is shin kicking. You knew about shin kicking.
I did. My uncle was one.
Very good. There you are. And I don't know if he left. Did he bequeath you his pair of clogs?
He was, you know what, by the time I knew him, he was blind and spoke at like pretty much nonsense in the corner. But he was a phenomenal shin kicker. He was a very tough man, and that was his pastime, was shin kicking.
Is that a blade?
Yes, it is.
Take it in turns.
Oh, yeah.
To kick each other in the shin as hard as you can. And it's the first person to basically...
Do you know what they cry if they give up? It's rather wonderful. You'd think it'd be, I give in, or, oh, stop it.
Stop it.
Go on with your bother.
Yeah.
No.
Stop kicking the shin, you
not that. It's not that. They shout, sufficient. That's the cry.
Oddly enough, that's my climax call. Sufficient! I'd like to stress, there's no domestic violence involved. It's just we're not greedy in our nature up north.
I have to confess, I've never heard the phrase climax call before. So it took a bit of time for me to understand what you were saying. And forgive me for that.
I think it's actually from bird watching.
They rip the skin off each other's legs and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
God.
one of the reasons for larding the shins was in order to encourage a glancing blow rather than a really vicious one. But the skill was obviously to move your legs so that it was a glancing blow.
Is it if you put your arms on the shoulders, you know the way you can't hit someone if you put them an arm's length, do they try to not get kicked?
I think it means you're in a stable position, so you're not escaping completely, but you can move your legs.
I don't know how short the legs are of people you'll know. But standing there, you've still got a fair bit of range, haven't you?
Well,
You'll be doing it with Ewoks.
The more I get to know you, the more I think men are mad. They're always up to something ridiculous. Kicking each other in the lardy shins, you're like...
Shin kicking is probably what it was called on an everyday basis, but in the 19th century there was a special word for it, which was purring or purring. Purring or pouring or parring. They seem to be all used. Parring, purring. Parring maybe because you were parrying away. Nobody quite knows. But anyway, it was a popular pastime. A lot of betting on it. Yeah. And there are shin kickers to this day in the oldest Olympic Games since the Greek ones, which we've covered before, which are in the Cotswolds.
Do they have a Channel 4 programme called Shin Kickers' Wives? My God, he's making so much money kicking chins. I love him. I don't like his personality, but it's just the one there.
Is he called a stickler?
He's a stickler. He's the umpire or referee.
Stickler for detail.
He's stickler for the rules, exactly.
Oh,
now,
okay, like
you can probably just see that he's got straw coming out of the bottom of his trousers, and that's what they use. They pad their shins. They're not like just northerners. No. They pad their shins, because this is in the Cotswolds.
Get a bit of lard on that, you smith lad.
Next thing you know, they'll be bringing in Crocs. They'll be going on for 9 days of shin kicking.
That castle looks really old.
I'm not sure it's a real castle.
Oh, no, don't spoil it. You have to spoil everything.
Get that wind up, but that's going over, isn't it?
People are bouncing around going, are you sure this is a real castle? Yes, it used to be.
My gran used to say sufficient when she'd eaten enough.
Oh, ample sufficiency.
Yeah.
That's the phrase, isn't
Say
it?
ample?
Or your granddad was kicking her under the table.
Yeah, maybe.
And she didn't want to let on. She just put her knife up at the sufficient. Sitting there weeping once she'd gone home. Oh.
We should have done it when we had the Olympics. You know, you're allowed to include a couple of games, like, you know, people going, put darts in, put, like, stuff we were good at, put snooker in. Like, we should have gone, put shin kicking in. Some poor Brazilian, like, what?
Going, take that, Germany.
I just can't bear the thought of all the other countries beating us at it.
We invented this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's enough of Johnny Foreigner doing this. Keep this quiet.
The Shin Kickers Association of Britain are known as SCAB, you'll be pleased to know. Perhaps appropriately. And Johnny's uncle was one, which is brilliant. We never knew that. I'm really impressive. Shin kicking was a popular sport in Lancashire pubs for 150 years. Now, here's a pub in Lancashire. My question is, how did Spanking Roger woo the ladies?
I know that pub.
Do you know it?
Yeah, I do.
Where is it?
It's in, like, I think it's in Kersal or Salford area.
It's Manchester area, quite right.
When I went to university, I know, I did, I lived in a place called Castle Irwell, which was a dog track before it became a student village. Yes. But every year, there was a race down the hill naked. And you would run down around this thing. All the blokes would. I didn't, obviously. It'd be weird. I didn't have I'm a I'm a grower, not a shower. And this pub was part... I think the guy, Spanking Roger, that's how he got his wife. I think there was something to do with his wife where he was naked and she had a little look. He was quite well and down. I thought, I'll have him.
You're right. Well, this naked running was on Kersal Moor.
Kersal Moor, which has now become Castle Irwell, which is now Student Village.
That's
it's the same
exactly
place,
it. We've got a picture as it used to be, which is beautiful.
Yeah, no, it was much more of a shithole when I was there.
No, exactly. Now it's just vomit and empty Pringles tubes.
Well, that guy, Spanking Roger, even though it sounds like he was a bit of an idiot, he ended up being a big guy in the army. Like, he fought... I think he defended Gibraltar or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely right. He was the great hero of Gibraltar. This is brilliant. He's on fire.
We're watching Slumdog Millionaire or something like that going, how did you know that one?
We had one... It is your manor, isn't it?
Yes, that's where I grew up, around the corner from there.
And he was a fascinating character, Spanking Roger, as he was known. He was from Scotland, actually. He was in the Scots Dragoons.
Oh, okay,
and he came down 6'4" high and of ample endowment, it seems, because he did do the naked run.
That's why he was called Spanking Roger.
He could only do it in the summer where the slapping didn't hurt him quite so much. But he did catch the eye of a 65-year-old widow whom he married. With his catchy corner in the eye. Her name was Minshall, Barbara Minshall.
That's right, which is... Minshall Courts in Manchester, and Minshall Street is that's where her family...
She was a rich family.
Yeah, and I think she died...
She's back in the 1760s when they married. And the next day he was immediately betraying her and spending all her money. And he spent it on, essentially, he would, on bare-knuckle fights. If anybody beat him, they were sort of free, but if he beat them, he dragooned them, as it were.
Is that why he's called Spanking Roger?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's called Spanking Roger because he fought. He was a brilliant bare-knuckle fighter. Yeah, that's exactly the reason.
He's got a hell of a camel foot for someone who's well endowed.
Yes, a bit. Yeah. Someone, I think the artist was modest, that's all, yeah.
Eating his shorts.
And life was extraordinary because he, as you rightly say, was the hero of Gibraltar with this dragooned army there. It was the longest siege in British military history, held up for 4 years and kept the rock, as we still have at time of going to press, unless the Spanish have had something to do with it. His wife died, he got into terrible debt, came back impoverished, found another woman whom he married. She was Scottish, and he died a very rich man indeed. So he had a pretty splendid life. A spanking life, in fact.
Why do they say spanking for good in England? Oh, that's spanking good time. And
it's a very good point, isn't it? The great, much lamented Christopher Hitchens once said there is no surname in English that cannot be improved by having the word spanker put in front of it. Spanker Manford, Spanker Vegas, Spanker Bee. Spanker Bee is terrific, isn't it?
There's the Queen Bee, there's Worker Bees, and then there's the Spanker Bee.
Spanker Bee. I bumped into old Spanker Davis at the club the other day. Well, Spanking Roger didn't spank ladies, he spanked the French and the Spanish. Roger was a strapping 6'4" with a Scottish accent, but what's short, talks gibberish, and is much sought after in Merseyside.
Johnny's uncle.
It is a diddy man.
It's not the diddy man, though oddly enough, you could barely be closer. In Liverpool, there was this, there it is, in case you wanted to know what Merseyside looked like. Ferry, cross the Mersey. And what's the largest, best-known ethnic minority in Liverpool, would you say?
Irish, I'd say.
The Irish, of course. Irish. Liverpool Irish.
Because
famous.
The Liverpool accent is very like the Dublin accent, and they're quite close to each other. So, like, you know, people talk like that from all the sudden, and eventually they're from Liverpool, and so if you go backwards, well, you end up
Ken Doherty, that's right.
So, yeah,
exactly. So,
Irish,
you got Diddy Men, and you got Ireland.
Are you saying short talking gibberish are Irish people?
No. You've got Diddy Men, who are little people created by Ken Dodd, and you've got the Irish. So it's not Diddy Men.
Leprechauns.
Leprechauns, thank you very much, Johnny Vaughan.
Be short.
Oh,
Johnny Vaughan.
Well, it was a particular event in 1964. It was thousands of Liverpudlian children streamed into the parks to look for leprechauns because there was a rumour that some had been seen, or one had been seen, or something. And they tore up plants and they ravaged the entire park system for 11 or 12 days in July 64. And then it just stopped as suddenly as it had begun.
It sounds like the Americans coming to Ireland. That's what they did, looking for leprechauns. Then it just stopped. They took their IT companies with them. They just never came back.
Absolutely.
Can I just say, just to be a little bit of a nitpicker here, those are garden gnomes.
Yeah, I know.
Very racially offended.
I'll give you points if you tell me how a leprechaun should look.
How a leprechaun should look. He should look charming in the eye.
Right.
He should have a sort of jaunty gait about him, and then a green hat and green outfit. And you could only find him at the end of a rainbow.
And should he be
the giant
bearded?
pot of gold. Should he be bearded? If he's not bearded, it is just a child wearing an outfit. Welcoming you to Ireland.
It's got a big red bushy beard.
A red
I've got one.
beard. Have you?
You've got a big red
You've
bushy
got a
beard.
leprechaun.
You get them at Dublin Airport. If you press them in the tummy, they go, "An Irish eyes a smile," and it's one of the spookiest, scariest things. My kids love it, but me and the
Is
wife
it like a
are
Chucky
terrified.
doll? Like if anyone presses
It really is.
Irish eye, that's fine.
you keep throwing it out the window and then it keeps on going back in.
I think it's supposed to be cute and endearing, but it's actually really like a horror film.
My lucky charms, ha 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 ha.
And it's got sort of an old man's voice in the distance. I'll bring it in.
My kids have got a bear. I think it's got a red heart on it, and you press it, it glows. And every so often you'll just hear it, so they'll go, "I love you," and I can see you, or whatever. I see. The worst one is "I see you." And I remember one night. I went to the toilet, and just middle of the night, half asleep, and the batteries were going on it. And so I sort of heard, and then all of a sudden I just heard, "I see you."
That's very disturbing.
terrifying,
I wouldn't recover from that. Well, interesting. I mean, who am I to tell you that you've got it slightly wrong in what leprechauns look like, because...
All right, Stephen.
They don't... No, I'm going
Look
by...
down upon me and tell me what we did wrong this time.
I'm going on early information rather than late, sort of 20th century information. There are inventions which come from the 20th century, which include the fact that they wear green clothes and tall hats, and they have ginger beards. According to fairy legends and traditions of the south of Ireland from 1825, proper leprechauns, if there is such a thing, are all... They have a trade? Shoemakers. They're all shoemakers, and they are exclusively what?
White.
Yes. They are.